Hello and welcome to my PowerPoint presentation about how high can you score with every joker in Balatro. This is a question I set out to answer a couple days ago and just wanted to share my findings because I found it quite interesting. Now, if you're just here to see the big number, you're welcome to skip ahead to the scoring at the end in the actual game. But for now, I want to explain some of my methods and some of the rules, because I find that stuff quite interesting. So yeah. So the way I actually got into answering this question is from this post on Blue Sky by Sean Vids, which asked if you played round 1 turn 1 Royal Flush in Balatro with all jokers, how could you score for each suit? Which is certainly an interesting question, but I thought it was a bit limiting in some sense. First up, just each suit part isn't too interesting, as all runs would be fairly similar. And also, the Royal Flush just felt a bit limiting to me. We can do better than that. So I set out to just answer a much more general question, which is just how high could you score if you started with all jokers? Okay, but now this does leave some space for ambiguity and things, so let's go into the rules. First of all, we start with all jokers, that's a given. Also, the jokers aren't negative. This can affect stuff like stenciled joker and also not being able to gain new jokers, so just good to get that across the board. Then we've also play only one hand, also a given from the rules. We want to see how high we can just score in the very first hand of the run. Now the next one might seem not that important, but actually has quite a big effect at the end, which is starting from the blind select screen. We'll come back later to see why that has an effect. And next one is selling jokers is allowed. I kinda went back and forth between whether to allow this or not, but I ended up allowing it because it just ended up with bringing a much more interesting run in my opinion. And the next thing is that we can assume that we have perfect RNG. Because we're trying to see what is the highest we could possibly score, having to worry about RNG and stuff just won't really make sense. So we can just always assume we have perfect card draws or anything related to jokers and stuff, just to get exactly what we want. And then this next rule, which might seem a bit weird, banning the Emperor card. The reason I decided to do this is because together with the Showman and the perfect RNG we assume, you can actually get infinite tarot cards by just having the Emperor give you whatever card you want and then another Emperor, and just doing that over and over. So I just decided to outright ban it to have that not happen. And then lastly, no skipping blinds. It's a bit of an arbitrary restriction, but I just thought it would fit more with the first round thing. It just made things a bit more simple, not having to introduce skip tags. We are going to also be playing on the Plasma deck, because it balances the chips and mold, which for high scoring ones yields in by far the greatest score at the end. And on the white stake, since there are really no advantages for playing on any other stake. Okay, now, we have 150 jokers at our disposal, and that's a lot. And when you have that many, most of them aren't gonna do anything. In fact, here are all the jokers that don't do anything. Now, there is a bit of an asterisk there, as all of them will actually end up having some effect on our run, but these are the ones that won't directly trigger. But again, we'll come back later to see how they do end up helping. Okay, so where do we start? Well, we start where the run starts, the blind select screen, where we already start taking advantage of our jokers, specifically the Cardomancer joker, which creates a random tarot card when a blind is selected. This can be copied by Blueprint to give us multiple tarot cards, sadly only 2 because of the 2 consumable slot limit. And we can use this to, at the start of a round, give ourselves a Justice card to make a glass card, and a Death card to copy it later. Now, we selected our blind and the round has begun. Which actually is a different thing from the blind select, meaning it has a different joker that we can trigger. In this case, Certificate. Certificate creates a random playing card with a random seal when the round begins, which can also be copied by Blueprint and this time Brainstorm as well, to give us multiple playing cards. The cards we were interested in are a red seal Queen of Hearts and 2 purple Jacks of Spades. These are both going to come into play later, but for now we can use our Justice card and our Death card to make 2 Glass Queens with red seal. Okay, now I want to take a moment to talk about our discards and hand size, because with all these jokers they're affected quite a lot. First are the discards, which between the 3 from Mary Andrew, 1 from the Drunkard, and the 3 base discards we get a total of 7. And then for the hand size, we've also got the Turtle Bean, the Juggler, the Troubadour, and the Stuntman with the Ace bait hand size to give us a total of 13, and also Mary Andrew, giving -1. That's actually quite a lot and will allow us to do a couple of interesting things. Now let's look at our discards. These actually ended up being quite interesting, and in fact my favorite part of labbing this route. So let's have a look. Trading card makes it so if your first discard is only a single card, it will destroy it, which is a nice combo with Kaneo, which gains 1 X-Mult every time a face card is destroyed. Next we're going to be discarding all 5 of our remaining jacks, the 2 we got from Certificate and the 3 natural ones. The reason we've been making jacks and discarding them this whole time is for Hit the Road, which gains 0.5 X-Mult for every jack discarded. And also notably, both of the purple seals that we discard will give us a death card. During all of this, we're going to be copying Mail-in Rebate with Blueprint and Brainstorm to maximum the amount of money, and of course the rebate will have to be on jacks for this to work. Our next discard is going to be of any 5 cards, but there's actually something quite interesting here because of Castle. Castle gains rich heaps for every card discarded of a specific suit, together with Smeared Joker, making spades and clubs and diamonds and hearts the same suit. We can actually optimize all of our suits to grow the castle. In our last 4 discards, numbers 4 to 7 are only going to include 3 cards, and that is for 2 reasons. The first one is the legendary Joker Yorick. Yorick gains 1 X-Mult for every 23 cards discarded. And then we also have Ramen, which loses some X-Mult for every card discarded. Because of this, we want to discard at least 23 to grow Yorick, but not any more than that, to not lose the X-Mult on Ramen. And notably, for discards 3 to 7, we are going to be copying Faceless Joker. Faceless Joker gives us $5 if we discard at least 3 face cards, which combined with Pareidolia makes all of our discards contain at least 3 face cards, because we made sure to, except for the first discard, always discard at least 3. Okay, now let's talk about our held in hand cards. And these are surprisingly not that important. The main thing we want to draw is our 4 kings. These combined with the Baron giving us X-Mult for each one, and then the Mime retriggering all the held in hand abilities. Give us a bit of X-Mult, though it's not going to be our main source. Next, we need to obviously keep the 2 glass queens we made earlier in hand, and also draw the original Queen of Hearts from the deck. And then lastly, we've got 6 remaining cards that can be just whatever. But importantly, 2 of them are going to be death cards to make another 2 red seal glass queens. And by this point it's become pretty clear that we are not interested in playing a royal flush. Instead, if you look at our played hand, it is actually going to be a flush 5, using the 4 red seal queens we made and the original one from the deck. And another neat thing here is Space Joker, which actually lets us level up our flush 5 by 1 level. Very nice. Okay, but now to the big question. How do we actually score? We're looking to get a big number, and what are the jokers that are gonna help us do that? Well, our scoring is gonna be divided into multiple phases. So let's look at phase 1, which is Trigger X-Mult and Retriggers. These are all the jokers that give us forms of X-Mult during when the cards are actually scored. By retriggering the cards a bunch of times, we can get a lot of X-Mult. So let's look at those. The first one is Ancient Joker, giving us 1.5 mult for each card of Heart suit. Now the suit on Ancient Joker is usually random, so we would of course need it to land on Hearts. Now similarly, we've got Bloodstone, which gives us also 1.5 for each heart. Now usually it is only a 50% chance, but thankfully we've got Oops All 6 is here to double all listed probabilities. And Bloodstone is actually the reason why we play Hearts to begin with, so very nice. Next up is Idol. Idol picks a specific ranked suit, which we are of course going to rig to be the Queen of Hearts, and then give times 2 mult when it's scored, so this is another big boost to our scoring. And then next we've got Tribulette. Trib gives times 2 mult for each king or queen played, which is actually the reason why we play queens. We couldn't play our kings because we want to keep it in hand for Baron, so we're only left with queens. And then lastly we've also got Photograph here, doing a bit more help on the first card. Now we've got one more source of X-Mult actually, and that is the glass cards that we're going to play themselves. And this also brings us into the re-triggers section, which is why we've got red seals, giving another trigger on the 4 queens we have them on. In terms of jokers though, of course we've got Suck and Buskin, retriggering all face cards, and Seltzer, just retriggering all cards in general for the next couple of turns, which is not gonna matter, we're playing only one hand. And then of course, giving us a couple more triggers is the Hanging Chad, which also plays nice with Photograph. Now to our next scoring phase, it's going to be non-repeating X-Mult. Essentially, all your standard X-Mult jokers that just happen once and then move on. The first of these is Cavendish, just giving us a nice times 3. And the next one is Madness, which destroys a random joker when the small blind is selected. We're going to give it a credit card to destroy because it sells for the least. And then next are nearly all the rare jokers that give you X-Mult for a specific hand. The only one we're missing is the Order for Straights, but we do have the duo, the trio, the family, and the tribe. Now next is actually hologram. Because of the 3 cards we get from certificate and 1 stone card from Marble Joker, we get it to ×2. And then next is also hit the road. During our discards we made sure to discard all of our jacks, so we could get hit the road to ×4. And we also got ramen, which we talked about earlier, giving us ×1.77, and Yorick giving us ×2. Next is also Kenya, which we also talked about in the discard section, and there's actually one more, but I'm gonna talk about that one later. It's a bit of an interesting one. Okay, and now for our third and final scoring phase. This is going to be our major source of scoring, and it is actually quite a unique one for this run. It's Baseball Card. Baseball Card gives 1.5 X-Mult for each uncommon joker you have. We can copy this with a Blueprint and Brainstorm to apply on all 64 uncommon jokers in the game. Yeah, that's a lot. But we can't actually use all of those. There are 3 uncommon jokers which we need to sell off to not hinder our plans. The first one of these is Burglar. Burglar gives us 3 hands but makes us lose all our discards, and we need those. The next, quite the known duo, Midas Mask and Vampire, both of which affecting the enhancements of our cards, which we don't want to touch. So we actually only end up with 61 uncommons, but still very good. Now, Baseball Card was very nice, gave us a lot of mult, used a lot of uncommon jokers which would otherwise be useless. Could really consider it the hero of the run. And if Baseball Card was the hero, then it's time to talk about the villain. Campfire. Campfire gains 0.25 X-Mult for every card sold. Now why is that a bad thing? That's just more scoring for us. The thing is, there are a lot of jokers which could do a little bit, give us a little bit of plasma, a little bit of chips, but have to get sold because the X-Mult on Campfire would just be so much stronger. This means we end up selling a total of 68 jokers. This is really a bit of a bummer because of how many cool synergies we lose. For example, Swashbuckler and Abstract Joker could give us a lot of mult because of how many jokers we have. Also ones like Raised Fist and Shoot the Moon, which would affect our held in hand cards for a little bit more mult. And even Dagger. We can't let Dagger destroy any card because it's just better to put Dagger on the far right and then sell whatever it was gonna destroy. Thankfully we do have a couple of survivors, those being Lusty Joker, Greedy Joker, and Smiley Face. And the reason these ones don't get sold is because they all give mult during scoring, so it can actually happen before all of the X-Mult on phase 1, which does end up yielding a higher score. Now it is quite a shame we had to sell off all those jokers, but it does lead quite well into the next section, which is money. Why do we even care about money? Well, because of these two. Bootstraps and Bull both give an amount of mult and chips based on how much money we have, so we want to optimize for it when possible. Now, so let's look at what gives us money in the run. First of all, we've got the $4 from the start, and the $3 from trading card. Next we discarded 6 jacks, with 3 copies on rebate. Each copy of rebate gives us $5, leading to a total of $90. And then similarly, we've got faceless jokers. 5 discards with 3 copies, each discard giving us $5, and then also 1 discard which we didn't copy it because we were copying rebate, leading to a total of $80. Then we've got all the money we got from selling jokers to Campfire, $172. And then, not one you'd think of initially, but we've got Rough Gem. Rough Gem gives us $1 for each one of our triggers on the cards, so we get a nice $21. And all of this leads to a total of $370, giving us $148 on the Bootstrap and $470 on the Bull. Alright, and now to the final part, the Joker order. This is what the original Blue Sky post put a lot of emphasis on, but to be honest, it really isn't such a big deal, because the Joker order really doesn't matter that much. This is an example of what the Joker order could look like. It might seem overwhelming, but it's actually quite nicely divided into groups. The first one just being Baseball Card on the far left so it can be copied by Brainstorm. Next we've got Bootstraps, being the only Joker that gives plus mult not during scoring, hence why it has to be on the left before all of the X-Mult effects. Then we've got our 2 sources of plus mult during scoring, Smiley, Greedy, and Lusty. And then we've got all of the X-Mult during trigger Jokers, like Photograph, Ancient Joker, and etc. Then we've got all of our retriggers, and our held in hand scoring. After that we've got all of our normal X-Mult triggering ones, and then we've got the sea of uncommons, filled with every uncommon Joker that wasn't previously used and just doesn't do anything for us. And then over here on the right we just put Brainstorm and Blueprint. This might seem a bit complex still, but if we're being really honest, only the first 5 cards actually matter in the order. The rest of these could technically be in any order and still work. I just organized them to better see like the individual parts of the run. But yeah, in terms of actually the Joker order, there is shockingly little here. And now, to the big reveal, the final score is not going to be shown here, because now I'm going to hop over to the run and show it to you in Balatro. And here we are in game now. Now, as previously mentioned, this run does require quite a bit of RNG. Thankfully I had a friend which was able to help to make a mod that guarantees all the card draws and jokers or everything. So yeah, thanks for making that. And with that, let's start the run. Oh yeah, look at all the jokers, beautiful. Now we do have the Cartomancer mod to help manage all 150 of these jokers. As you can see, I got a little zoom button, and when we press that we can scroll through all our jokers, even if there's a bit of a funny effect here. And now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some jokers to sell, so yeah, be right back. And alright, here we got Dagger on the right, and so it doesn't destroy anything. And we can scroll all the way back left here to copy Cartomancer. We will need to switch after we selected the blind to copying certificate, so let's go ahead and do that. And just like that, we got our Justice card, our Death card, our Queen with a red seal, and our 2 purple jacks. Now we can first up make it into a glass queen and then copy it. And then we need to make sure to copy mailing rebate. And then we can start with our discards. First of a single jack. And then all 5 of our remaining jacks. And we're going to get 2 death cards from this. Now we need to switch over to copying Faceless Joker and discard any 5 cards. And the rest of our discards are going to be only 3 cards. There we go. Now we can use both of our death cards to make 2 more queens. And just like that, we got our final hand. Now let's organize our jokers. We need a baseball card on the left. We need to sell off both of our econ jokers. And also the juggler and the drunkard. We're done with those. We need to move boots next to baseball card here. And then all of our plus during scoring jokers. And now we do have all the other jokers, but the order of those doesn't actually matter. So yeah, let's just go. And Space Joker here to help a bit, leveling up our flash vibe. Ah yes, beautiful. We have Baron activating on the Kings, and now we got all the uncommons getting their 1.5x move from baseball card. And also the flat X move jokers. And just like that, 4.6 E or 134, the highest you can score in Balatro with every Joker if you start. At least the highest I can find. Now I do want to say quick thanks to the Balatro wiki and the Balatro score calculator website for helping me get to the number of this run. Also to my friend Issa for helping make this mod for me. And the mods I used here, like both the Cartomancer mod for all the Jokers and the Saturn and some other ones. Yeah, that's gonna be it. Goodbye.